the more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. When you lean in to the parts of yourself that you are afraid to look at, and you have support to do that, not only will you set yourself free, but every single person in your web knows what freedom looks like. You will trigger people, you will inspire them, you will make impact and change. I also think part of this journey is, and one that I've recognized this year specifically, the only thing I can control is myself. As the world gets louder, as it gets more uncertain, I need to get certain. And the only thing that I have 100% control over is my mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual energy management. I've never met a woman in the history of the world and the work that I do, when I say responsible woman, I mean a woman who has a lot on her plate, who has said, I don't have the capacity. Like, everyone has said this to me. I don't have the capacity to put one more thing on my plate. And I'm like, no shit. That is the whole point as to why we are here and why we are having this conversation. And that to me is a little bit of a red flag of how we are showing up as women. And I was thinking about today and how I wanted to have this conversation, what I'm known for, and also, when I speak to people who have gone through the journey and have seen the transformation, I say, what was it? And they're like, number one, you held the belief for me, not only holding the belief that I didn't yet believe in myself, but you practice what you preach. You get right to the point. You tell me what I need to do or where I need to focus, not necessarily where my ego or my fear or insecurities want to focus. And I'm just going to be very honest with you. I have grappled with this part of myself for a really, really long time, because I, on the inside, am like the gushiest little tiny soul having a human experience ever. And I don't know why I am this way, but what I mean by that is, and I'm using women because that's who I primarily work with, but this is for all humans. I can see how 80% of how a woman spends her day is bullshit, and it is hiding, and it is masking, and it is performative to please other people. And I live my life very differently. I parent very differently. I work very differently. And my North Star is to feel in alignment with how I want to feel. My North Star is always, how can I let go of what is no longer serving me? And the byproduct of that is lighter. So when people come into my world and they go, not this, not this, there are 4 types of energy they need to understand how to manage. Those types of energy are mental energy, physical energy, emotional energy, and spiritual energy. When they know how to manage those 4 types of energy, natural consequence of that is they also understand and develop the skills to manage financial energy. I never came into this work wanting to teach women about money, and I'm not known as a money person, but I'm a very practical person. And if you are not well resourced with your time, your energy, and your financial resource, meaning you can have shit tons of money in the bank, but if you don't feel in control of it or somebody else is controlling it, you are not free. There are 2 types of women that I have come into contact with. And a lot of what I am talking about today, I have observed in the last 12 months. 2 types. 2 types. There's the dreamers and there's the realistic dreamers. I'm a realistic dreamer. And what I mean by that is a lot of people will say, I just need to be realistic. And I'm like, yes, you do. But I quickly realized that their definition of realistic and my definition of realistic were different. So I want to define this for you. A dreamer, you can call her a dreamer, a visionary. This is a woman who has like desires inside of her, right? So these are the secret things you write in your journal after your wouldn't it be nice if like list. These are the things that when you see it in somebody else, you're like, I want that. There's something there. I want it. This is the dreamer inside of you. You have that visionary inside of you. You have that like, I want more. I want different. So I'm curious, number one, so just listen to what I'm saying. Are you a 1 or a 2? Okay. So that was number 1 dreamer. Number 2 is the realistic dreamer. The realistic dreamer understands the reality. If she has a dream and desire, it's going to be emotionally uncomfortable. She has to take action. She has to have a plan, and she knows she needs help. When I say I'm a realistic dreamer, what I mean is I realistically know just because I want something, just because I journal about it, just because I talk about it with friends or I listen to podcasts about that topic or I've bought books on that topic or digital products does not mean it is going to come true. Being realistic means you understand that becoming takes energy and effort, and it takes consistently inconsistent, intentional focus. I would also say most likely 95% of the women that I work with who see a transformation, if they're diagnosed or undiagnosed, are probably neurodivergent in some capacity. And most of them, the realistic dreamers, never, ever tell me they can't focus because of insert label or diagnosis, whether it is neurodiversity, whether it's hormones, whether it is family responsibility. So number 1, do you identify as a dreamer? Or number 2, do you identify as a realistic dreamer? Someone that truly understands that more information does not equal integration. That if the life that you truly desire to have requires a different identity. It requires managing the 4 types of energy: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, in a way that you have never experienced previously. Number 1, dreamer. Number 2, realistic dreamer. The more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. The more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. I said this to a client. I've been saying this a lot lately, but I said it to a client in a one-on-one the other day, and she's newer to my world, and she was like, absolutely not. She's like, how the fuck is that possible? And I said, yes, exactly. And then, so number 1, she couldn't see it. She goes, the more responsibility you have, the more you have on your plate. And I said, and how is that belief serving you so far? She's like, well, I'm sick. I'm exhausted. I'm resentful. I'm angry. I am depleted. I cannot manage things properly. And I said, great. So we need to change the stories and the meaning of what it means to be a good woman, a good wife, a good human. I also said this in another one-on-one, and someone said to me, I totally believe that now. But here's my challenge, Heather. Because I believe that, because I had a strategy, because I had a plan, and I took all that, the little tiny baby steps of emotionally uncomfortable action, what I realized is now I find it very difficult to socialize and to interact and to understand most people because I can't unsee this now. And I was like, yeah, your identity has changed. You have evolved. You are a completely different person. And because you are a completely different person, guess what? Now you have the privilege and opportunity to support others or to take that additional capacity that you have and go to the next level, dream bigger, and do it all over again. Wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be nice if? And here's the thing. When you go on the journey and begin to embody this identity of the more responsibility I have, the lighter I should feel, your brain begins to find evidence of how that's possible. The way that I manage my time and energy is focused on how light can I feel. So I'm going to share a personal story with you, which I haven't really shared publicly yet. But before I do that, I like to be practical, mental. I'll show you what I'm doing. Physical, emotional, spiritual. Okay, so look how fancy I am. Pen and paper, boop, 4 boxes, a line, vertical, horizontal, and then I labeled each box. One is mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. As you are listening to me with your focus of lighter, I want you to start writing to-dos or any notes that come up for you in each box. So what I mean by that is, so mental energy, if you are familiar with how I define mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. So I'll give you a quick overview. Mental, the stories you tell yourself. Okay, this is just like high level simplicity. So the stories you tell yourself, I don't have time. I mean, me literally saying, the more responsibility I have, the lighter I should feel is a mental story that I have. So if your mental story is the more responsibility I have, the heavier, more angry, resentful I feel, then you understand that that is a story that is not serving you and you need to redefine it. You need to declutter that story. Physical energy to me is the physical 24 hours in a day. It is physical delegation. It is physical tasks, okay? It's also your physical body. So if you're like, I physically feel heavy and you know there's some action you need to take, which could be something like exercise, movement, like that needs to be a priority because you can't delegate that, or how you're fueling your body, or maybe it's hormone health and you need to, physically make an appointment or something like that, or it's physical delegation tasks, right? Like who's putting the garbage out, who's wrapping the gifts, who's, running all the errands. Those are physical. Emotional is actual emotion. So that is like energy in motion. Okay. Emotion and mental are 2 completely different things. So that could be fear, guilt, shame. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. And if you're like, oh shit, I don't even know what I'm feeling, that's okay. You can feel it. It could be, you can just call it fear. The opposite of feeling amazing. Spiritual. This definitely you can make it your own. Like to me, it is like, what is my soul craving? It can also be something bigger than you, whatever your belief system is. It could be the opposite of fear, like, trust. And again, whatever that is. For me, I usually define this as like, what is my soul craving? Okay. So my belief is that I am a soul having a human experience. I'm just trying to make this a good trip. I'm just trying to squeeze all the juice out of this lemon and go, that was a fun ride. And, I'm not living with regrets. The only regret I have is a tattoo on my arm, and I'm in the process of removing that. So I'm not living with any other regrets. Okay. I always joke about regrets because there was like a tattoo that I saw online where it said like, don't live with regrets instead of regrets. I'm also wildly inappropriate. So I'll be like, I have deep wisdom and lots of inappropriate jokes. So that is the 4 there. Okay. Lighter. Now I'm going to tell you a story. What people don't see on the internet is, regardless if it's social media or you're listening to the podcast or you've experienced me or anybody else in any capacity, everything is like an iceberg. Okay. You see the tip. You see, oh, it must be nice. Oh, look at this, look at that. What you don't see is what happens behind the scenes. And not even what you don't like see behind the scenes, but like the things that are happening internally for every single person. Every single person. And I even think about my household. And I think about my boys and my husband, and my mom lives with us as well. And I often think about, their perception of me versus like nobody knowing what people face inside of themselves. And I can say with 100% certainty, my ability or my willingness, I'm not going to say ability because I think we're all able, my willingness to look at these 4 types of energy and be incredibly persistent of not dying mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and giving myself permission to feel as good as I desire to be has become a mission. I don't live for myself. I live to impact other people, whether it is breaking generational patterns in my home, whether it is supporting the women in my community, people watching me, some random stranger who I don't even know is watching me. But the easiest way to make an impact in somebody else's life is to do the work yourself, to say, look, if I can do it, you can do it. When you desire to feel lighter in your life, when you desire to have more capacity, understand you have to feel the opposite in little tiny moments. This year alone, I cannot tell you the commitment I made to continuously, relentlessly face the parts of myself that no part of me wanted to face. Part of the reason why I decided to face those parts was because I didn't have the privilege of having what I call a back door. I didn't have a privilege to fail. Like, I just don't. And that's not me saying that. That's like actual facts, or that's a belief that I have, that failure is just not a privilege I have. I see a lot of people who have the ability to give themselves what I call a back door, give themselves an out to play small, to get really close to the edge and then to back off to the edge. And I just don't have that privilege. And sometimes it's actually required for you not to have that privilege, or sometimes you have to. And some of them were self-induced, no back doors. I put myself in specific situations where I did not have a back door, that I could not run away from myself. The natural consequence, I felt lighter. The natural consequence was I am finishing the year more proud of myself than I've ever been, having more confidence in myself because I know I won't quit. I know I will not give up on myself. Now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I could not fathom the idea of not giving up on myself. I didn't understand that. Every breath I took was for other people. What started me on this journey was motherhood. I literally got out of bed through raging depression that nobody will ever understand unless they've been in the exact same shoes, and they'll be like, you? No, nobody gets it. And I'm like, how could I get out of bed when the second my child was in school or daycare, I had no motivation to take a shower? And I think if I can live for somebody else, how can I use that to manipulate my brain to feel better? How can I use this innate primal instinct that most women have to make an impact in other people's lives, to over nurture, to literally just pour this? You're like, where does this energy come from? Where did this like mama bear come from? Where did this like advocacy come from when someone else needs something? But the second it is for myself, I can't get out of bed. So when I started my journey, I was not motivated. I was not inspired. I was so afraid of failure. But it was a different type of failure. It was like real failure, like my physical body shutting down, me not having any clue or idea on how to advocate or support my children's mental and emotional well-being in a system that was not designed to support their health. I had no idea. And it was just like relentless, one thing after another, after another. And I felt like I was being punched in the face. And so the more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. I also said this to someone else recently. It was a man, actually, someone I was interviewing on the podcast. I said, for so long, I was seeking female mentorship, and I could not find one that had that belief. The more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. And back then, I didn't think of it that way, but that's what I was seeking. I was like, all right, I got to become her. I have to become her. Something else I was thinking about this morning was sacrifice. I can't listen to most podcasts, interviews, and personal development books, regardless of who they're written by or who they're speaking about, because I think we have it all wrong culturally. You know, you got to sacrifice for success. You have to sacrifice, da, 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 da. And I'm over here thinking, oh my gosh, everyone has been brainwashed to believe that somebody is suffering when you are not, when you're unboundaried. Somebody else is suffering when you are not at their beck and call 24/7. Other people are incapable of literally wiping their own ass when you are not the doer. And I'm like, that's physical. But you can be in relationship with other people and energetically be connected to them. How many of you have at least one person in your life that you could talk to once a year, but you always feel connected? That's evidence right there that you do not need to be a doer of everyone's shit. You just need an identity upgrade. And with an identity upgrade, you have mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual strategy that is required. Everything that I'm saying to you, some of you are nodding your heads and you're like, yes, 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 yes. I get it. I get it. But you have to understand and go back to like, what type of dreamer are you? Are you number one, the dreamer who has the dreams and the desires and acquires information, but secretly knows that you are not going to take action on those? Because the second you take action, you have to feel, literally, you have to feel the human experience of the emotion that comes up. You have to face parts of yourself that you've never, ever, ever faced, especially with that identity. And in order to be lighter, you have to let go. And we don't like to let go. We don't like to let go. Part of that is because we're human. And part of that is because of the attachment we have to the thing. Mentally, I don't have time. Just a simple story. You get value by hanging on to that. You get value by hanging on to it. And I think you need to become radically honest about what you are actually sacrificing by hanging on to it. Because I think about the amount of energy and effort and patience and presence and emotional intelligence skills and capacity I need to hold big shit for people. Whether it's a client, whether it is my growing young adult that lives across country, my oldest son, whether it is, oh heck, whether it is watching any men in your life attempt vulnerability. And what I mean by that is not, is holding the space for somebody who has never had sacred space held for them. I'm not sacrificing anything by mentally releasing stories that no longer serve me. By keeping them, I am sacrificing the health and well-being of people that I care about. Which is why I have a very difficult time understanding when people say going after what you want and desire, being dreamer number 2, means I have to sacrifice certain things. And I'm like, where the fuck did we get brainwashed to believe that? Because sure, maybe I have to spend an hour doing something so I'm quote unquote away from my family. But do you know what that hour gave me? Presence, opportunity, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual capacity to hold my kids when they say, I really need you, Mom. Or when a woman is sending me a message on Christmas Eve, as they do, having an emotional breakdown or a meltdown, going, I'm right at the edge. I'm right at the edge, and I'm absolutely terrified to hold this boundary. And I'm like, I've got you. And she's like, she's reaming on that bar. She wants to make sure I got her. And I'm like, I got you. And I can only do that because I have opened those doors. I've walked in because I refuse to die while I'm still alive. The more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. What physical tasks are on your to-do list, are on your plate that you can put down? What physical tasks are on your to-do list or on your plate that you can put down? And if you gain energy from them and you decide you want to keep them because it gives you life, nobody said you had to get rid of it. What if you put it down and it didn't get done? Sure, you can talk about the small things or the big things, but what if you put it down and someone else said they were going to support you and they were going to do it and they didn't do it? Are you able to hold the emotional discomfort of learning how to trust people again? Are you able to hold the emotional discomfort of receiving support? I'm not talking about you receiving. I'm talking about you being able to see it in other people. And what I mean by that, I always like to play this little game with people. My neighbor is my favorite person to do this with because she's not in my world and she has absolutely no idea, like, really what I do. She's curious, but I'll just give her a little something. Might be extra leftovers from dinner, something. It's inevitable. I'm like, here, kids, go drop it off at the neighbor's house. Within 30 minutes, something shows up on my doorstep. 30 minutes. And I'm like, what is this? And it's like this panic. Here, thank you. Oh my God. And I'm like, let it in. Let it in. Let it in. And vice versa. It shows up on my doorstep. Maybe she has attachment that I need to turn around and give her something else, or I can just say thank you. And I can sit with my own discomfort of wanting to ping it back at her. It's not that any of this is good or bad, it's observation. I'm still mortified from this experience I had in kindergarten. Talk about PTSD. I was wearing a skirt. It's probably why I don't like skirts or anything super girly. And I got out of the bathroom and the back of my skirt was tucked into my little undies. And I remember a boy telling me that my skirt was up. This is what I see in the world. You can't unsee it. I can't unsee how women overcomplicate life and buy into strategy and information to avoid integration. Strategy is simple. I remember talking to one of my friends or new friends, colleagues this year. Her name is Tess, and she talks about investing. She's like, Heather, and I know she was on the podcast once too, a few episodes back. She's like, Heather, investing is so easy. And I was like, really? I'm like, because culturally, that's not the conversation we're having. She's like, of course. They have to brainwash you. They have to make you think it's difficult. They have to overcomplicate it because it's not sexy. And she walked me step by step by step by step. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. Why don't other people teach it this way? And she's like, why would they? If they benefit from you playing small and your oppression, the whole goal is for you to stay self-oppressed so that they can get ahead. And I'm saying they as in you could make this on a macro scale, you could make this on a micro scale. You are all experts in something, from life experience or formal education. You can walk out in the world and you can see how somebody is overcomplicating something based on where you've invested your time and your energy. You're like, oh my gosh, that could be done so much easier, right? And you may or may not help others do that in your way. Whether it's just something super simple or it's complex. So why do you think you need to understand that in every area of your life? When I started this work, when I started this whole journey of coaching, I was like, well, no one wants to, not that no one wants to work with me. I just do deep work because I'm like, you have one precious fucking life. And you can say to yourself, oh, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. My thing is time. You have one life. If you are wasting it on strategy that's not working, it is time to put it down. If you are wasting it on relationships or communication skills that are not working, it is time to put that down. If you feel like you've outgrown a career, it's time to put that down. And most of the time, when I'm working with people, I'm like, okay, what's going on? They're like this, and there's an area of their life. And we create their phase 1 focus plan. Right, great. What's causing you? What is sucking the life out of you? What is taking as much time from you and energy? Amazing. It could be parenting. It could be a marriage. It could be the way you're doing your work in the world. It might be a corporate career that you have, and you're like, this isn't like, I don't necessarily want to be self-employed, but I need to align this with the life I want. And I'm like, great, then let's renegotiate. Well, I can't. Nobody else does that. I can't. And at the core of everything is this fucking belief that women hold that for some reason, power equals bad. And yet they so badly want more freedom, more space, more connection, more impact. Well, do you know what's required with all of that? Visibility, honesty, capacity. And if you don't have a strategy and support to help you, you are giving birth by yourself in the dark. And when I say you're giving birth by yourself in the dark, what I mean by that is when you are in a primal state of transformation, your brain is not working properly. You are not there. You're experiencing contractions, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual contractions. And you need somebody to be like, you know what? You're okay. I'm observing you right now. This is completely normal. Let's go. Go do the damn thing. Versus what happens when shit hits the fan and it could have been prevented? Who taught you and told you that you need to sit in isolation by yourself and receiving anything took away from other people? My definition of selfish is independence, hyper independence. That is one of the most selfish things, selfish identities you can hold. One of my biggest personal growth moments this year, and it's actually only happened, well, it's kind of come full circle in the last 60-ish days. And maybe I'm not even fully, I can't even put words to it yet, but raising boys will really show you how scared we are as women. And what I mean by that is I can do anything I put my mind to. But I now believe I am not meant to do this alone. And I am not meant to do this burnt out. And that if I truly, truly, truly want to become myself, I need to let men support me and protect me. And that also requires me to hold boundaries, to speak my truth, and to be honest about what's working and what's not working. And in my home, there are 4 men. Well, 1 adult, 3. Well, now there's only 2 because 1 moved out. I got a lot of male energy around me. And the one thing that has really has been incredibly eye-opening, because people always like to compare. The more I step into my quote unquote feminine of how do I want to feel? If you've been in my world, you've heard me say that 1 bajillion times. And using the theme for today, lighter, the more I lean into feeling lighter, the more they step up and protect. And if they don't, I trigger the crap out of them and they walk away. And that's okay. And this is a perfect example of like the connection we crave with others in our life. If I want to feel lighter, I have to look at where I am carrying heaviness, where I have carried it to protect myself, and where that is no longer serving me. Because I don't believe that, like, healing never ends. You're not solving or fixing anything. Once you get over something, the next level comes in. That's part of like the human experience. What I mean by this is there was a version of you that got you here, and she carried something. It could be a mental story. It could be a lot of anger to protect herself. It could be like a coping strategy that became her whole personality. Like, she is resilient. She did what was required. But there's a part of you that doesn't want to walk into the next year carrying it. And you don't yet know how to put it down. You don't know where to focus to reclaim your energy, to reclaim your time. It's required that you put things down, that you declutter in order to let the newness in. And I like to tell people they're energy hoarders, and they have been carrying all this shit, and they're just not willing to let it go. And what I mean by that is you can't talk about your problems. Like, you cannot intellectualize and solve your problems from the neck up. Sure, that might be a mental way to solve a problem, but you have to integrate the other 3 types of energy. If it's not working, then change things up. If your goal is to feel lighter, what are you carrying? What is it? Where is it? And here's a quick tip. How can I do this in alignment with feeling lighter? How can I do this in alignment with feeling lighter? Not what strategy, what tactic. How can I do this in alignment with feeling lighter? Then you build the strategy. Then you make sure you have the supports in place, and you make sure you don't give yourself a backdoor. Some of the biggest growth opportunities I've had this year is when I stopped giving myself an out. People call it playing small. I just no longer allowed fear to dictate my action. I started co-creating with fear, like, listen, you little asshole, we are headed on this adventure today. You're going to calm down. I got your hand. I'm taking the wheel, and I'm following through. Sure, my body reacted, and I did what was required physically to manage that energy. Sure, my brain got really angry and started screaming at me. And I was like, that's fine. Pen and paper. The more responsibility I have, the lighter I should feel. If I believe that thought, how am I going to act? Emotionally, some of it I just didn't even pay attention to. I was like, I'm not going to suppress this shit, but I'm just going to let this be, like, the vessel. Great. Ooh, I'm triggered. Awesome. I get excited now when I'm triggered. This is the weird ass game I play with myself, because I know when I'm being triggered, I'm headed to a growth edge. I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay. Ooh, okay, let's open that door. Let's go in it. I'm not going to run away from it. Ooh, what is that? I'm going to take responsibility. I want to feel lighter. I don't want to have this trigger next year. So I'm going to lean into it. Spiritually, this is where shit gets real good. What is on your wouldn't it be nice list for 2026? Most of the time when people start working with me, we do a wouldn't it be nice list to kick off. And I always ask people, usually midway through or towards the end, they go, oh my gosh, most of the shit on my wouldn't it be nice list is checked off. And sometimes it's little stuff, you can like get cleared out rather quickly. And then there's always that one thing that is wrapped in resistance, wrapped in fear, wrapped in all the juiciness. And I asked them, if you accomplish that one thing on your wouldn't it be nice list, how would you feel? And usually they start crying because those are the pattern breakers. Those are where you fulfill a part of your soul contract and money back guarantee. I've seen this again and again. When people head towards that one thing on their wouldn't it be nice list and they have the support to go through it, that's where I call it the birth canal. I'm like, I'm just here to bring your soul back to life. I'm just the midwife bringing your soul back to life. But when you can check that one thing, maybe two things off your wouldn't it be nice list that scare the shit out of you, 100% of the time, what's on the other side is she goes, I'm so fucking proud of myself. I have more confidence than I've ever had. I feel free. I feel alive. All those physical goals I had, the revenue goals, the everything physical on my list, that's gravy. My relationships are better than ever. I know my value. I know my worth. I know how to communicate it. The more responsibility you have, the lighter you should feel. When you lean in to the parts of yourself that you are afraid to look at, and you have support to do that, not only will you set yourself free, but every single person in your web knows what freedom looks like. You will trigger people. You will inspire them. You will make impact and change. I also think part of this journey is, and one that I've recognized this year specifically, the only thing I can control is myself. As the world gets louder, as it gets more uncertain, I need to get certain. And the only thing that I have 100% control over is my mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual energy management. The women who are like, I'm an action taker. And I'm like, yeah, and you're probably taking too much action. You could do way less and get way better results. We just need to pivot a little bit. You can't read the inside of a label. You need outside support. And if you already knew how to achieve the desired outcome, you would be there already. That's the one thing I say to myself all the time. Heather, you say you want this, you don't have it yet. Do you know how to solve this problem? If the answer is yes, then follow through. If it's not, then don't, or get support. And what I mean by that is when people say, I know what I need to do, I'm just not doing it. I'm like, bullshit. That is the most bullshit thing I've ever heard in my life. You know the information, but you don't know how to integrate. You don't know yourself enough to know the exact support that you need. You don't know your brain enough. You don't know how you take action. You don't understand emotional intelligence at the level required in order to follow through. Everyone knows they need to fucking drink water and go outside and work out and fuel their bodies. You could go on YouTube to figure that out. I know what I need to do. I'm just not doing it. The I'm not doing it part is another strategy. That is the becoming journey. And I think we're living in a time that requires you to mentally understand that not all your problems will be solved with more information. And that, to me, is not sacrifice. That, to me, is a birthright. We are living in a time that if you do not become, you will drown. I see it with my kids. I see it in my work. Now more than ever, I've had more corporate women starting to work with me. who are like, I've never felt so uncertain in my work in my entire life. I'm like, let's go. Self-employed people who are like the economy. And I'm like, nope. How is it that some people are doubling profit or revenue and other people are sinking? How are some people thriving and other people are not? They say or success leaves clues. I refuse to burn out. And the only way that I have figured that out is to learn how to manage my energy while I am going after what my soul craves, which requires me to have different conversations, which requires me to change my identity, which requires me to lead differently. And with that, I ask you, if you had to feel lighter, what is required of you to let go? Imagine December 2026, ending the year, being able to look up and go, I get it now. I get it. I can see it. All the ways that I was running away from what I truly craved and desired. If you have responsibility to people or this aching responsibility within yourself to make a bigger impact, it is required that you have to let go of what is no longer serving you. Responsibility equals privilege. Privilege is an opportunity to make an impact in the world. Your impact doesn't just affect you and how you feel. It changes generational patterns. So let it be a fun game. Why not?